Welcome back to the final stage of this Gene Key's growth, which is the siddhi of the 36 Gene Key, which is compassion. The Beatitudes. There is perhaps no better symbol for the entire journey from the 36th shadow to the 36th siddhi than the life of the Christ. Here it is again. In examining the 64 siddhis, one can see that certain gene keys appear to have very strong connections with certain mystical lineages or figures. The myth of Christ is one of these keys repeating lineage, but the lineage does not so much concern the historical personage of Jesus himself as the frequency represented by him. The symbol of Christ on the cross is a powerful reminder of the truths inherent within this 36 gene key. It reminds us that we are each mortal and that there is great beauty in our humanity, echoed in Christ's assertion that he was the Son of Man. People who do not understand the true relevance of the symbol of Christ on the cross may see this as an inglorious representation of a god. In most religions, the prophets or gods are seen as powerful, beautiful, or awesome, whereas the figure of a man dying helplessly on a cross appears to be a deep representation of a victim's state of consciousness. However, it is this aspect of Christ that makes him such an approachable figure. For so many people, the very fact that he is suffering makes him more human. This approachability is what sets the 36 siddhis so far apart from many of the other manifestations of the siddhic level of consciousness. This is a siddhi that spans the chasm between man and God, between being a victim and being enlightened. It speaks to every single human being, and it asks each of us to ask ourselves a single question: why must I suffer? The answer to the question of suffering lies here within the 36th siddhi. It is the same answer given to us by the 25th siddhi. It is all about love. However, the universal love manifested through the 25th siddhi is very different from the compassion expressed through the 36th siddhi. Universal love almost has a distinct quality to it, as though it came from the gods themselves. The 36th siddhi, on the other hand, speaks in the language of man. It can only flower through a journey of intense suffering. Such is the path of the 36th gene key. This is the flowering of suffering itself, and as such can no longer be understood through the word suffering. It is the fragrance released after the storm is over, and just like the 36th gift of humanity, this is a siddhi that has to be earned. Beings like Jesus who attain final liberation through this siddhi are salt of the earth people. They are burnished over and over again through the trials of their life, bringing to them, and once they have They are burnished over and over again through the trials their life brings to them. And once they have made that magical step away from seeing suffering as negative, it stops being so. It actually becomes their muse. At a acidic level, your own suffering becomes so universalized that it encompasses all humanity. All boundaries of self dissolve, suffering and compassion merge into one as your human heart explodes with the feelings of all human beings. Their pleasures and their pains, their aches and their longings, their vices and their virtues. At this siddhic level, as the programming partner of the 6th siddhi testifies, peace reigns supreme. In every mythic journey, there must always be a final trial, a moment of utter hopelessness and helplessness, like Jesus hanging bereft on the cross, crying out in agony to his God for understanding. These moments, the darkenings of the light. I guess I will always have a hard time with this because, we could have, referenced Odin, hanging upside down on the tree of Yggdrasil, or, we could reference Quetzalcoatl in certain myths, so I find why, is there such a bias? Why is there such an obsession towards Christ when there are so many amazing figures? Like if we're needing to go into the mythological aspect of the human mind, or the ability to work with archetypes through story, then there's such a palette. There's such a range of colors to paint that tapestry with. The kind of bottleneck around only using Christ as a fundamental reference point, to me, it brings up this thing. It brings up this specific thing for me. So we're referencing another person's achievements to bring a fundamental message. And to me, what that represents is that human beings in their nature are simply not ready and are not able to take responsibility for what this particular gene key is actually talking about. If we're still referencing some mythological figure and their journey, then we're not in fact referencing reality. And that's not me saying I do or don't believe in Christ. That is completely irrelevant. And in fact, I'm not giving any room for the Christ myth to have any importance in my mind or not. Because to me, I've done everything in my life to attempt to embody these frequencies in a realistic and functional manner and share them with others. And so there's a realism behind what I hope to express, offer, and inspire in any of the viewers and listeners here so that they can make this not something that is a biblical reference to a plausible storyline with a person who has plausible features and plausible achievements, which then can be described and potentialized and interpreted by people all over the world and nothing really ultimately ever agreed on. I feel that it's actually not really serving anyone. It's only really continuing in a certain lineage of plausible unactivationalism. And so what we have the opportunity to do is really and deeply embody something by recognizing what those qualities are in our own life, recognizing the seeds of those qualities, not as done by Jesus, but as done by us, so that we can recognize the threads in our life of how we are already doing, close to doing, have done in the past, or whatever, in such a way that we can jump on the train more. If we're talking about unconditional love, well, we can take a look at the patterns in our life that really allows that to happen. And I just really don't think, Christ specifically is the only one that we can reference to be able to inspire ourselves to embody those frequencies ourselves and really to usher us in as a guide to walking fully the path of discovering our divine heart in our true kind of like ascended soul, however we want to really see that. So yeah, there may be multiple commentaries I do throughout the work, but they're in no way meant to insult the work. They are, however, meant though to take off the training wheels. And what I've seen so far in this book is that Christ kind of represents the training wheels of our people of this earth. Is that religion seeks to superimpose a set of beliefs and seeks to superimpose a set of codes of conduct because it assumes that the human consciousness is not mature enough to claim its sovereignty and to write its own sustainable code of conduct, which is in harmony with both the cosmic laws and principles, which is represented by these, supposed divine beings like Christ, Muhammad, Buddha, Quetzalcoatl, Pekel, Votan, like all of these beings, and an earth-based bioorganic set of codes of conduct and integrities and sustainabilities. And so we as people, especially people who are participating in different types of energy work and whatnot, can translate directly what those codes of conduct are because they're working with sustainable fields of energy. Mythologies can only touch at them, but because mythologies have no exact substance outside of the mind, there is no real practicum in a mythology. The greatest practicum that I've seen so far you can have in a mythology is language, and how language can kind of model itself through mythology to, be able to bring a potentiality to bear. And then if we embody that language, maybe certain qualities that are being referenced in mythology then can become realized and embodied. But without the particular language, and yes, someone could easily say, well, there's a language to this, and it's the gene keys. But the fact of the matter is that gene keys are in fact universal and are not actually superimposed on the religious sect known as Christianity. And so we can't really say that fundamentally the gene keys language is specifically meant to portray Christianity at all. So yeah, training wheels off. Let's kind of, I really inspire everyone. Let's embody this for ourselves. Let's look for different routes. But I'm sure the message will cry out very clearly as we finish this gene key. So thank you for bearing with me. I do appreciate it. If you don't want to hear me speak, just go Fast forward. In every mythic journey, there must always be a final trial. A moment of utter hopelessness and helplessness, like Jesus hanging bereft on the cross, crying out in agony to his God for understanding. These moments, the darkenings of the light, come to us in life not so much as tests, but to cut us so deeply with our own humanity that we are reminded of the awesome power of our own compassion for our fellow men. Such trials gives us the opportunity to make huge evolutionary leaps out of our shadow states and into the higher frequencies. There are many traditions which speak of this siddhi in terms of miraculous transformations made by truly evil beings who, in a moment of utter horror and complete surrender, make the leap straight into the shadow state, from the shadow state into the siddhic state. This is one of the very few gene keys that allows such miraculous leaps of consciousness. Those in whom the siddhi has awakened tend to keep moving into those areas of life where the light is most darkened. They usually flourish during periods of crisis or war, or live and work among the poor and wretched. The 36th siddhi goes on longing to explore the frontiers of consciousness within form, and after a certain point, it ceases to care or identify with its own security at all. Anyone manifesting the 36th siddhi at some point has sunk into such a dark space of helplessness themselves that it is impossible for them to experience anything as intense again. This has the effect of annihilating all fear from their system, so that true peace emanates from within them. The simple presence of such people and the look in their eyes or the softness of their voice can trigger all manner of so-called miracles in those whom they meet. Those are the most heart-melting people ever to walk the face of the earth. Wherever they go, the true frequency latent within human suffering is immediately released, and compassion tears open tears. Okay, tears. I like compassion tears. Wherever they go, the true frequency latent within human suffering is immediately released, and compassion tears open people's chests and explodes inside their hearts. Even the darkest of natures can be instantaneously brought to tears. It's funny. Tears and tears are like spelled the same. It's just silly. To tears, to the presence of this 36th siddhi. Within the above in mind, with the above in mind, and oh my god, this is such a mess that I'm like doing. I'm just gonna start over here. Melting people ever to walk the face of the earth. Wherever they go, the true frequency latent within human suffering is immediately released, and compassion tears open people's chests and explodes inside their hearts. Even the darkest of natures can be instantaneously brought to tears through the presence of this 36th siddhi. With the above in mind and held softly in one's heart, perhaps one may come to a deeper intuitive understanding of the true meaning of the Beatitudes, in those famous words of Jesus uttered in the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called to the sons of God. They will be called the sons of God. Blessed are those who are the persecuted for righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. A lot of bias in there, but I guess somewhere in there there's a message that only Jesus can give. Yeah, and it seems like it's only for guys, and there's, no room for women in this vision of the heart. So yeah, inherently you can maybe see in my sarcasm why I have a problem with some of these messages, because they really don't speak about the entirety of the transformation at hand, and I feel they're deeply missing a lot of things, and I feel that truly needs to be spoken. And these things need to be challenged. They need to be challenged, and there needs to be a voice given to the force that this love comes from, and the codes of conduct that we can very much embody to allow this to become truly a universal thing, a safe thing, a non-biased thing, where it's not just for certain people, it's for everyone truly. Anyway, this is the Leia Eternal. Thank you for listening to this episode. Yeah, there may be a commentary, but there's been a lot of commentary here. So much love and enjoy.